You're listening to No Plot, Only Lore, a podcast about games and the tables we play them at. Your DMs tonight and every night are Josh and Chris. You can find us on all podcast platforms or check us out at noplotonlylore.com. If you like what you hear today, please rate and review the show and share it with everyone you've ever met. Chris, let's talk about loot fatigue.
I have just bestowed upon you a +1 sword. Are you grateful?
Well, I didn't have one before, but I have one now. So I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did happen to skim through the DMG, though, and I saw that, like, could this be, like, a +1 sword of, like, something? Like, is this just, like, a regular +1 sword? Because I see there's a lot of these other kind of variants that sound more interesting.
I don't understand. It's a +1 sword.
Well, no, and that's better than, like, not a +1 sword, but, like, what can I have a +1 sword of, like, giant slaying?
Why would you need that? It's just a +1 sword, man.
Well, I guess, but, like, in this campaign, Charge of the Giants, I feel like maybe a sword of giant slaying is going to come in handy.
No, that would be super OP. I just got a +1 sword. Oh, and right beside that is a +1 sword.
Oh, okay. Could I actually have like a cloak of protection? It's sort of critical for the character build I have planned out.
Okay, so I will see your cloak of protection and raise you a +1 sword.
Okay, well, I only have 2 hands, so I guess I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with this third sword.
Have you seen One Piece? Because we know that you love anime.
No, I see the people who play the One Piece card game every Monday, and that is I kind of lied. I saw the live action. I was like, oh, that's interesting, and then I found out there was 1,000 episodes. I was like, there's no chance. I'm not doing that.
Okay. One thing to note about the live action is that, like, the live action smashed together like 100 episodes.
Good.
Right, like the pacing is significantly. I have watched a few episodes of the anime, and I am not a fan, admittedly.
I watched the first episode and hated the blonde child.
I really liked the live action.
Okay, yeah.
There is, kind of going back to a conversation we were having before the mics were turned on, they really embraced the weirdness of the anime. And they did it in a way that feels very genuine.
Yeah, I liked how, like, cartoonish the world was. Like the outlandish colors, the extreme costuming, the obviously the wonky, like, special abilities, and even just, like, the fundamental structure and lore of the world was so just, like, alien and bizarre, but they treated it so seriously.
How far did you get in the live action?
I finished it. I watched the whole thing.
Oh, okay. The dog admiral's beard is fucking goals.
Yeah.
That guy's beard is immaculate.
Yeah.
I have never seen beard game that strong. Other than maybe the guy who has, like, the fake turned up mustache beard that was obviously painted on.
Yeah.
But, like, for a real ass beard, that guy's beard game is some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's wonky. It's so... It looks like the kind of thing that you get those, like, YouTube compilations of, like, international beard competitions, and, like, you see what they're going for, but it's kind of sparse and weird. And then his is just, like, the perfect, like, sculpted version of that.
Crisp, clean lines, full in every, like, portion of his face, just long enough, very nautical. It's the beard Will Riker wishes he had.
Anyways, we're not here to talk about beard fatigue.
Anyways, we're not talking about beards today. Off on a fucking tangent. No, we're talking about loot fatigue today. And part of the reason that we're doing this is because I actually got some feedback about one of my previous games that I found interesting.
Okay.
And it was that progression was a little too fast.
That's wild. So, like... You're not, like, are you doing, like, milestone leveling, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing milestone leveling. And admittedly, the pace of that leveling was pretty quick. Like
Okay.
we were doing a level every like 2-3 sessions.
Okay.
And one of the complaints for that was that they didn't have enough time to acclimate to the new powers and the new gear and the stuff that they had. And suddenly it was feeling overwhelming, their character sheets.
Okay, but like, was this part of a plan where like, hey, I need to get you guys up a couple levels before this next session happens, because if you're not level 5, you're going to get totally stomped? Like, or was this just like, you're just running your thing without a real plan and like, oops, you did too many levels?
Like a relatively free form, but I knew where we were going.
Okay.
Right. So like a lot of the time when I'm planning my sessions, I have an endpoint in mind, like an end game for what we're going to be doing with the campaign.
Okay.
And an idea of how we're going to get there.
Right.
And how my players interact with the world is going to determine like how quickly we get there, I guess. But a lot of the times, like the stuff that I'm throwing at them is going to be matching the overall arc of the plan.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't willy-nilly. It wasn't something that I was just like, yeah, have a level, I guess. But it was admittedly at a pretty quick clip because I was anticipating us getting up to around level 12, 13.
Okay.
Before we hit like the end game.
Okay. On
that session. But yeah, I was over rewarding my players and they were starting to feel like levels didn't matter.
That is an interesting piece of feedback. And I wonder if, because were these new players? Like you said before, you play with a lot of new players. Because I feel like veteran players probably wouldn't have felt the same way. Like, I know there could be
I got the feedback kind of like blanket. Okay. Like it came from both veterans and new players. So that's part of why I was like, I don't always take the feedback that my players give me as like canon. It isn't something that I have to like keep in mind necessarily, but when I get it from a wide range of my players, I usually pay more attention to
Okay.
it. So
yeah, because I know like you can fall into that trap of a veteran player where it's like, yeah, the first 3 levels like don't really matter. You just kind of like get through them until you start getting like the interesting stuff that defines your class.
We started at level 3. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. That's an interesting take. Like, I've always been someone who is excited by character progression and character advancement. I don't really feel the need to like inhabit a particular level to understand a class or a character, because like I've done the homework ahead of time. I kind of know roughly what they're supposed to be doing at those levels anyways. So it's just like the level is irrespective of like the story or role-playing beats that are going to be hit. So who cares what level you're at? You can talk at any level. So
yeah, for me, like as a player, I find that my levels are a little bit like cards in a deck.
Okay.
Right. Like I get new abilities, my numbers go up. But the overall plan for the character as far as like combat stuff is concerned doesn't really change.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's just like I open up some new abilities, and then which ones do I have at my disposal at any given time? Those are the ones that I'm going to play with.
Yeah.
But I think that part of that just comes from experience in the game. Like I've been playing for 30 plus years, and not everybody has been. And I've played several different editions of D&D, and I've had to learn completely different skills and spells and things that are named the same thing because of like tech debt. But not everybody has had that same breadth of experience with it. So I guess like having a bunch of new stuff thrown at you all the time could get a little overwhelming. And then the other part of it, I think the part that I took home about it was that levels didn't feel like they mattered.
Sure.
Right. And that's kind of what brought me to the idea of like loot fatigue, because it isn't just levels. It is also like the gear that you get. And when you just get a +1 sword every goddamn treasure chest, you can throw it in with your collection of other +1 swords.
Right.
And it doesn't feel like a special thing anymore.
It's so interesting that you say that. So, the game I'm playing in right now that's almost done has been, like, for most of its length, fairly loot light. I've got a couple items now, and frankly, like, I kind of forget to use them sometimes because I'm so used to not having anything special going on other than, like, oh, well, I have a +1 wand or whatever, right? So it's interesting that there's people out there, because this feels to me closer, like the idea of even loot fatigue feels closer to the experience of playing 4th edition, where loot was a lot more intrinsic to the character and a lot more plentiful and a lot more varied. The idea of just getting a basic +1 sword was kind of like, why the hell would you do that? Because at the same level, you give them a +1 sword of frost, a +1 sword of ice, a +1 sword of acid, something like that, right? And have a lot more variation within the types of equipment that you're giving people, and understand that, like, yeah, you might give them, you know, gear that deals extra fire damage because they're going up against a bunch of ice elementals or whatever, right? And then you just loot was a little more, I don't want to say disposable, but like you kept
interchangeable.
You kept extra sets around for specific encounters, you know.
Which I mean also led to one of the few things that I consider to be a problem with 4th edition, which was the, like, over-the-table metagaming.
Right.
Of, oh, we're going up against a troll. Better load up on all of our fire and acid weapons.
Yeah.
Let's go into the bag of holding and get those specific items because we know a troll is coming.
Yeah.
So, like, that was one of the few things that I found in 4th edition was a little more prevalent just because of the tabletop gamey feel of it.
Right.
Like the board game feel of it. You ended up with a bit more min-maxing with your loot.
Sure.
And trying to, like, eke the best advantages that you could out of it. Which, I mean, not necessarily a drawback, but it kind of detracted from, like, character play and discovery and that sort of thing.
Sure.
So, what's the best piece of loot any of your characters has ever gotten?
Oh, good question. I'm trying to think of stuff that I've had and has been useful or interesting. Okay, never mind. I know the answer. The best piece of loot I ever got was a homebrewed amulet that was given to a character of mine in a game, and it was an amulet of, like, essentially like spider control. The idea was you had this red gem spider on you that became like a little companion. It could sneak around and it could bite people and weaken them. But then there was one little tagline that was at the bottom of the description. Well, not just the description, the mechanical effects. It says, you control all spiders within 100-foot radius.
Oof.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody knows anything about spiders and their population density, but there's a lot of fucking spiders out there.
Did I ever tell you about, okay, another tangent, but did I ever tell you that, like, when I moved in, the person that I was getting the apartment from, like, took me aside and said, Christopher, the spiders were here first. It is their house. You are a guest here. We have bamboo just outside of my apartment door, and my house is constantly full of spiders.
Okay.
We've got, like, little orb spiders. We've got, like, the huge wolf spiders. They get to be, like, dinner plate size and kind of scuttle across the floor. I saw a black widow not too long ago.
That's dangerous.
That one freaked me out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am not a person who fears spiders, but I was real careful putting that one in a cup and throwing it outside.
Yeah, I would have stepped on that one.
I would have really liked an amulet of spider control. in that scenario.
So after confirming that it did what it said it did, I was like, cool. Have you seen Big Hero 6?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So you know those little microbots that...
oh, gross.
Yeah. So just turn those into spiders. And that is how my character conducted himself for the next 6 months. That
is super gross.
Yeah, I basically had a living like cloak / walking carpet of spiders that I used to like move myself around, and I like had them run up into a tree and like spell out a message like Charlotte's Web to scare off some bandits. And then we were interrogating a guy and he didn't want to talk. So I sent a spider up his urethra and yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah. I super duper abused that ability for a long time because I had absolute mental control of all spiders in a radius. And I just wandered around for a while in the woods collecting spiders until I had this unstoppable tsunami.
I am so sad I asked.
Yeah. That was the best item I ever got. Oh, I once drained a cow, like a Capri Sun. I sent all of my spiders over there to feed. Just
and mine is possibly the most mundane item that anybody has ever gotten, which was a hat of rope trick.
Hat of rope trick?
Yeah, are you familiar with the rope trick spell?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the rope trick spell.
Yeah, so in 3rd edition, you could make magic items out of spells for a gold and experience cost.
Yeah.
And so I had my wizard buddy enchant a hat with the rope trick spell.
Okay.
Which the hat was just flavor, right? Like it didn't actually have like an effect other than it was kind of like a portable hole. Like wherever I put the hat, that's where the portal would be. The rope trick spell, for people who don't know, you create a space that's up a rope. So you like climb up the rope and then you have like a space that'll fit 6 creatures.
Yeah.
What the description doesn't say is how big those creatures can be.
Yeah.
And so we made it 6 dragons big. And then I built an apartment in it.
Okay.
And so, like, it was a permanent rope trick spell. I built an apartment anytime we needed to, like, piece out from a dungeon and, like, have a long rest. Then I could, like, put the hole somewhere that was inconspicuous. We would all go through it. We would, like, have dinner.
Yeah.
Take our long rest in, like, bunks and real beds. And
so funny.
Then we'd be fresh and happy for the next day.
You had infinite safety.
Not infinite, because part of the thing with rope trick is that the hole is still enterable.
Right.
So there isn't a way to lock it. So you do have the opportunity for like wandering monsters to show up and like come into your apartment, and now you've got goblins, and that's gross.
Yeah.
So like that was like the only real drawback to the thing. But if you were able to get into a weird spot, like a spot that was hard for like other critters to get into, then it presented an awful lot of like safety and comfort while adventuring.
Useful in a different way.
And then, yeah, useful in a different way. And then another one that I really liked, like the runner-up for that one, was Earrings of Message.
Okay.
So that whenever we were in any kind of like espionage scenario, all of us could hear one another and send messages to one another as though we were using the message spell.
That's just like useful shit.
Useful shit, but like also like it added to the espionage feel of just like you put your finger up on your ear and be like, okay, I'm in. Right? Like I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah.
What's the worst item you've ever been given?
You know what?
Mine is the Deck of Many Things.
Oh, I hate the Deck of Many Things, but I've never been given one. I was going to say, like, I have a magic... Well, it was a wondrous item that I had, but, like, I wasn't, like, given it per se. I was just told, like, hey, you're going to start with something that fits your character. It just can't be, like, useful. So I had this, like, flask of Eternal coffee.
Nice.
Just always had warm coffee. But like,
I want one in real life.
Yeah, like I could chug from it, but I could never like pour it out. It would just disappear. So, yeah, it was like fine. It just, you can't do anything useful with coffee that vanishes the second it leaves the vessel.
That's the whole thing about like magic that would be great in real life versus magic that's great in D&D.
Yeah.
Right? Like magic that's great in D&D is like a fireball spell where you do a bunch of damage to a whole bunch of creatures. Magic that would be great in real life is Unseen Servant.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
The best
floating spell
disc.
that exists. Yeah, just like Unseen Servant, go do my dishes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's it. That's all I want is some phantasmal force that is going to go and do my chores.
It literally makes your life better every single day at no cost. Yep. How many times are you going to cast a fireball that's really going to improve your life situation? And if you're in a situation where fireball improves your day-to-day life, like you're already on a downward trend.
Well, like it's a little bit like the superpower conversation. Like the superpower that I daydream about having the most is Wolverine's claws. I have zero use for Wolverine's claws. Like, I imagine myself like walking down the street or like walking by a fence and like cutting the fence open, but I wouldn't actually do that because that's vandalism and it would hurt somebody's feelings that their fence is ruined now. Right? Yeah. Like zero use for Wolverine's claws, but that's the one that I daydream about the most. The one that would be most useful to me would be teleportation.
Right. Yeah. See, like for similar reasons, I think a lot. Well, the one I think about the most is probably just invisibility because I just like, I just don't want to be noticed a lot of times.
That is difficult for you.
Yeah, I just want to be left alone, right? But then the other one that would like probably be the most useful on day to day is just like flight. Like for similar reasons to teleportation, it's just like no, I want to move between areas in a literal straight line. Like
I do not want to cross any of the space between here and there, but I want to be there now.
Yeah,
is my whole thing with teleportation.
Yeah,
right. Like I don't want to go to work. I just want to be at work.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, one of the things that you kind of have to balance as a DM is like how much loot you're giving out over the course of your game.
Yeah.
And like, obviously there's like game breaking aspects to that. Like you don't want to give a party of first levels, like +3 weapons across the board or whatever.
Right.
But that kind of gets into like the reward inflation side of things where like if you give everybody a +1 sword, if you want a sword to feel special, now it has to be a +2 or higher.
Right. As like we had kind of the opposite problem too, where like for a long time nobody had a +1 sword. So it was just like, oh shit, like these encounters are a little more dangerous than they should be, or taking a little bit more time because we just like can't hit things. Like it's such a tricky balance to run. Like you need to give out +1 swords eventually.
And I feel like you kind of hit on like one of the ways to make +1 swords more interesting was like the +1 sword of Giant's Bane, or
right.
the +1 sword of Spider Killing, or the +1 sword of whatever the heck it does.
Yeah.
Because like they are a little bit modeled after like Tolkien is obviously the model for basically all things D&D.
Yeah.
And we have Sting.
Yeah.
Right. Sting is a +1 sword that has goblin detection.
Yep.
And it also has like a long elven history that has poems written about it and a whole bunch of other stuff. But those are the things that make it unique.
Yeah.
Is that it is a slightly better than average sword that is also able to tell if goblins are around.
Yeah.
And having those like cute little abilities attached to them is a huge deal, I find, when giving out loot.
I really do like leaning into like the niche functionality of items. Like this thing is going to have one time where it gets to be super cool, and then like every other time it's just like fine. The problem I run into.
Do you do a lot of charges?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
The problem I run into a lot is like there are certain things I want to give out that are only a certain weapon type. And for various reasons, people just don't want to use that weapon type. Or they've built into a specific weapon type that to use anything else would be an active detriment. Like with a lot of the new weapon focus and weapon specialization stuff, it's like, yeah, I spent 12 levels. I've got like 4 feats in like making me super good at axes. What am I going to do with this sword?
Right. And if you just give them axes all the time, then that a little bit breaks world cohesion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every chest can't have an axe in it. Like this isn't just an entire country full of axe users.
Yeah. We're not all Scandinavian.
It could be, I guess.
So.
Yeah. I was watching a video about using axes in the offhand earlier today.
Don't do it. It's a bad idea.
It was okay. Don't do it. Yeah. They're heavy and difficult to work around.
Yeah.
How do you feel about flaws on items?
I don't want to say like every item should be cursed. Like that's super cool. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I am saying like there should every item is not perfect. There should definitely be odd things about them or like a potential weakness. Like I super love the idea from Dark Sun where weapons can break if you fuck up badly enough. And I feel like if you sort of extrapolate that idea into magical properties, you can usually find a way that like, hey, if my sword of giant slang ever touches a lizard or something, it just like implodes. Like,
speaking of Scandinavia, that sounds like an incredibly Scandinavian type curse.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, this sword is indestructible, lest it touch a lizard.
Yeah.
Well, one of the examples that I have here is that a sword hums whenever danger is near.
Oh, yeah.
Which you could take to just be like,
Yeah.
But I immediately took it to be like humming its own theme music.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Just
like you start coming down the hallway and suddenly like the Halo theme kicks on. It's like ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da. Like, oh no, Jeff, hide your stick.
So, like the worst version of the Halo theme though, because it's just some guy like humming it.
Yeah, no, it's just me.
Or I've got like armor that makes you smell like brimstone here as well. Just like walking into church.
Yep. Well, even taking something as simple as Sting, like that glow can get real bright. And maybe you don't want that to happen when there's goblins around because you are hiding.
Yep. And it's playing with the benefit also being a flaw is one of the funnest ways to make your items interesting.
Yeah.
Without making them like overpowered or underpowered. Right?
Yeah.
It's like having a glow whenever goblins are around, that can be a huge deal, right? Like if you're outside and your sword starts glowing, you're like, oh shit, goblins. But again, like if you're hiding or if you're at an inn and suddenly your sword is being kind of racist.
Yeah.
Like, hey, bud, why is your sword doing that?
Every time the server comes by, it like glows a little brighter. Like, oh, cool.
Server doesn't look like a goblin at all.
Not at all. What did I gave someone a hammer that like vibrated. And what they didn't know is that the intensity of the vibration would like increase as there were, what was it a hammer of? It was something that like, shoot, I can't remember now. It was something in the dungeon where like, basically what happened was like they would be near a wall and it started vibrating so violently that it was like knocking on the wall behind them.
Oh.
Yeah. Shoot. Whatever. This was years ago. But yeah, like just dumb little things that can catch you off guard are always a fun drawback. Or again, like
it'd be kind of fun.
I like the minor curses, like the personality manipulation.
Yeah, that's a fun role playing opportunity.
Yeah,
sometimes like you kind of have to negotiate that with your players. Like, if I'm going to give somebody a curse that has personality manipulation in it, I'll usually give my player the opportunity to choose what's being manipulated.
Yeah,
because it gives you a clue into like the type of character that they're looking to play.
Go ahead.
Obviously, you don't want the like character personality flaw to be like he's too heroic.
Yeah.
But like sometimes that's a great like character flaw as well, where it's just like he's too fucking heroic. You have to make a saving throw right now, or you're going to rush into combat.
Yeah.
Like,
and I will say this is super goddamn frustrating, but we a couple weeks ago had like, and this was I think just like part of the as written adventure, but there was a what are they called, a berserker axe in a room, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't know it was like a classic item, but one guy at the table super fucking did, and so everything that happened for the next while was sort of colored by his like, I bet you it's a berserker axe, like you better not touch it, blah blah blah. And it just like it metagamed and ruined the whole kind of fun of a berserker axe, especially for a table with like two more or less brand new players who had never encountered one before. And a situation where it's like, how do we restrain our friend who wants to just murder all of us,
Yeah. I mean, that's so hard to get around with any of the classic items in general, right? Like you find a mysterious deck of cards wrapped in silk in a dungeon, and people are going to start making assumptions, which can be fun to play with, right? Where if you're like, here's a deck of cards, it's wrapped in silk and it's emanating a magical aura, and then it's not a deck of many things.
Yeah.
That can be fun sometimes, like subverting that expectation. But like,
Predator
sometimes you want it to be a deck of many things.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like a deck of many things, everyone knows what it is, and that's kind of the fun of it. Is that it's like, yeah, this could be anything. It could even be a boat. Like we kind of know what, as a players, we know what the consequences are of pulling cards, and that's just like a flavor element that's getting laid over our campaign. Because at the end of the day, every draw of those cards is a choice. And
sometimes you pick up the berserker axe.
Well, but that's the thing. Like the drawing from the deck is a choice that a character is going to make actively. And it feels like finding an item that obviously like looks to be useful, that we know is magical when you don't have a magic item. Like a character's just like, oh, cool, I need a magic axe. It's just like a +1 axe or whatever. Right? So that feels a little more involuntary, which is like fine. Like that's the purpose of the, a cursed item in general is just like, hey, there's surprising downsides and how are you going to overcome this difficulty? And it gets taken away by metagaming, whereas like metagaming the deck of many things really kind of ends at, I know it's a deck of many things, because there's that random element. Like a berserker axe is a very defined thing. It's a fixed item that does a very specific function. That function, when metagamed, becomes useless. Right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like an equivalent type of item. And the one that I'm kind of coming back to, I think they've taken it out of D&D in more recent editions, but it was the girdle that changed your gender.
Okay.
Where like it was a pretty good armor item. Like it gave you a +1 to your AC for like a belt magical slot.
Okay.
But now you're a different gender than you were before.
Yeah.
And like the earliest version was it turned men into women because now you're a girl.
Right.
And then later on, I think that there were like equivalent items for women. And then when gender became more complicated than that in the public consciousness, they were like, we don't want to make a magic item for every one of those.
Yeah.
Which would be hilarious, though, considering how many genders there are now.
I like the idea of just like making a generalized like belt of gender inversion and then having to figure out what the opposite of your gender is.
Yeah, and like then having to define exactly what your gender is.
Yeah.
Right? Like mechanically determine, like, especially if you're like a weird species, a fucking Aarakocra.
Yeah. Define your gender. Give me the inverse. What is the inverse of gender fluid? Like,
yeah. That could be a lot of fun. But yeah, like that's kind of the same thing where it's just like, oh, you better not put on that girdle. Because it's going to turn you into the woman folk.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes away some of the fun of, like, the discovery of your items, and I mean, the discovery is so important to avoid loot fatigue, right? Like, the discovery of cool, new, fun things that you can do that isn't just a +1 sword is so important. And if you have somebody at the table who's taking that away, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, and that's kind of the conclusion we came to, is that, like, this guy kind of sucks. So...
Hey, good. Thanks for making it all the way through this episode of No Plot Only Lore. If you're looking for more, you can always find us at noplotonlylore.com and on all the very best podcast platforms. If you like what you heard today, please share, rate, and review the show to feed my never-ending need for attention and validation.